And the indictment that was filed on May 25th, in count 1, charges Mr. Daybell the offenses of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder and grand theft by deception, both felony counts under Idaho Code 18-1701, 18-4003A, 18-24031, 18-24034A, 18-24071B3. The count in count 1 names Tylee Ryan as the victim on the murder charge, and that count carries a penalty on the murder charge of it is punishable by death or imprisonment for life, and it provides that if the death penalty is not pursued by the state, then the court shall impose a life sentence with a minimum period of incarceration of 10 years. The grand theft portion of that charge has a penalty of up to 14 years of prison and a fine of up to $5,000 and possible restitution. That's a summary of those charges, and you've waived the reading of the charges. So let me ask you on that count 1, Mr. Daybell, do you understand the charge and those possible penalties?
I do.
Okay.
Chad Daybell in court, all by himself, being apprised of the charges against him, which is now murder. This is a murder case now. Things have gotten very serious. It has taken a while to get there. Prosecutors believe they've put together all the evidence, the investigation, and they are there. Let's take a listen now to Chad Daybell entering his formal plea.
On count 1 of the indictment, Mr. Daybell, how do you plead? Enter the not guilty plea on count 1. On count 2, how do you plead? On count 3, how do you plead? On count 4, how do you plead? On count 5, how do you plead? On count 6, how do you plead? On count 8, how do you plead? And on count 9, how do you plead? Very well. Not guilty pleas are entered as to all the counts in the indictment. At this time, normally we would discuss a trial setting. I talked to counsel and chambers before we started, and given the nature of the case, we've determined that we'll set a scheduling conference 2 weeks from today.
He said not guilty. It was tough to pick it up on the partial Zoom appearance there, but he's in court, and you saw family members were in court as well. Kay Woodcock was there. It was regular court, murder charges. We're getting there. We're getting there. Colby Ryan was also there. This is JJ and Tylee's brother, and he spoke afterwards. Let's take a listen.
It's hard. It's really hard. Seeing him, knowing he did it, and knowing everything about the truth and just this whole process is really hard. Obviously, we've all had to go through it, but he's going to say what he's going to say. He's going to lie about it. From the beginning, they've lied about it, so there's nothing you can do about it.
All right, this case, super high profile. That's why we have with us still Kirk Nurmi, the attorney who represented Jodi Arias in a super high profile case. Chad Daybell is a co-defendant and a co-conspirator. He's a co-conspirator with one defendant who is dead, Alex Cox, and a woman, and we're going to talk about her in just a second, who was not in court, and her case has been delayed because of her mental issues. We'll talk about that in a second. Chad Daybell by himself. Does he have a stronger case if he goes to trial and it's just him sitting at the table?
Boy, I don't know about that, Vinny. I think it's always better if a defendant sitting there with all these multiple charges and there's a co-conspirator to have someone there to blame. I think to defer the blame, to deflect, so it's not all on him, I think he would be better off having multiple people with him and facing those allegations. It would help muddy the waters for Mr. Daybell.
What are your overall thoughts about this case? We haven't spoken much about it. When you look at this, do you say, wow, this is a case that is seemingly overwhelming, or it's kind of bizarre? I mean, what's your impression of this case, which has so many layers and so many strange things happening and so many people dying?
All of the above. There's so many tentacles to it. It's so complex. And I know that like a lot of people, they're upset that the charge didn't come sooner, but there's so many tentacles to this case, so many jurisdictions, so many dead bodies, unfortunately 3, right? So there's a lot of complexities to it. And I think it's going to be something that's going to be like an onion that's just going to keep peeling, especially when we see Miss Daybell, once she becomes competent, what are some of the things that she's going to do? What are some of the things she's going to say? So I think that onion's just going to keep getting peeled, Vinny.
Now, you mentioned when she gets competent. She was committed today. Let's take a look at the order of commitment. The court finds that the defendant lacks fitness to proceed and that the defendant is incapable of assisting in the defense of this case. The court finds that the defendant does lack capacity to make informed decisions about treatment. The court finds that the defendant and this one shocked me, is not dangerously mentally ill. I might dispute that. The above-named defendant is committed to the custody of the Director of Idaho Department of Public Health and Welfare for care and treatment at an appropriate facility for a period not exceeding 90 days. The progress report shall include an opinion as to whether the defendant is fit to proceed, or if not, whether there is substantial probability the defendant will be fit to proceed within the foreseeable future. All right, put this in English. What does this mean, Kirk? What does this mean?
It means whether or not she's competent to assist her counsel with this, she understands the proceedings against her. And one of the things, this might scare a lot of people thinking she's going to walk away from being insane. I think it's really a restoration of her mental health. I think that, in my 15 years of practicing, I only had one person that was incompetent to stand trial. The competency standards are very low. So I think ultimately this is an insurance policy, both by the defense and the state and the judge, quite frankly, because given the tentacles and given the depth and the complexity of this case, no one's going to have to do it twice, right? So they want to make sure she is fully competent, fully aware of her faculties, it's fully documented. So if or when she's convicted, it doesn't come back because of these competency issues.
And what's the bottom line here? If it gets delayed more than 90 days, another 90 days, do you think that they will proceed with Chad Daybell's case, or will they keep that? Will they wait for her to be competent and try them together?
It's possible with all these tentacles. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but I suspect they'll wait to try to get them to be tried together. I mean, Chad's not going anywhere, right? So the urgency is only from the victims and the victim's family, but they're going to want to do it right. The prosecutors are well advised, and the court is obviously going to want to do it right. You only want to do it once and make sure they get the fair trial that doesn't get later overturned.
Kirk Nurmi, thanks so much. Great to see you.
Vinny, great to see you, buddy.
Still